Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Frank and Candid. Today, Thursday, 11th August 2022. The last day for the program for this week. Of course, we will be back with you on Monday when I will start my final week for the time being. It's a lovely day, actually, and I'm enjoying it. It's a nice, refreshing atmosphere that is pervading the St. Kitts Nevis landscape at the moment, particularly so in St. Kitts, I presume. But we are thankful nonetheless for the great blessings and benefits and so on that Almighty God in His endless mercy continues to send our way. This week we've been looking at we've been analyzing, as it were, the results of the general elections and the implications and ramifications of such. We have been asking ourselves a number of questions. One of the, people meet me from time to time and they say, hey, I wanted to raise this issue on the program. I don't ever call in, but I listen and wanted to raise this matter. And so I tell them sometimes it's better if you initiate the discussion by calling in and raising it. But somebody was asking, more than one person, what do we think, what do I think, what do people think are the implications for the People's Action Movement in particular with respect to the results? Because everybody recognizes that Pam got what we can refer to as a rout, a trouncing, a mauling, a beatdown. What does that mean for them? I'd prefer have one of the representatives of the party to be here to discuss that, and I'm going to try and do that sometime next week, for that person, that individual, to discuss with us what he thinks, whether he's speaking on his own behalf as a member of the party or on behalf of the party, what he thinks is the way forward for the People's Action Movement, because we believe that the elections were a step backward. So what is the way forward now for that entity? Right. I also wanted, and you might want to share with us what you think. Whether you don't have to support the party, you don't have to support any party. We're speaking to our citizens, as aware citizens, as involved citizens, as concerned citizens, because we want the best for our country, no matter which party runs or rules. I wanted to point out as well an interesting fact that Communist Maynard has placed himself in history books, in the sense that he is the first and only candidate to run for general elections, win, then lose, then run again and win. Nobody else has ever done that. Nobody else has won, then lost, then run again and won. So in that respect, he is unique. So congratulations, Congress. You ran in 2015, you won. You ran in 2020, you lost. You ran again in 2022, you won again. No other candidate has replicated that. Once they lose and they run again, they lose, and they lose until they stop running. But you have bucked that trend. Congrats. All right. So we've been looking at a number of incidences and so on, and we wonder what they mean. We're going to have you discuss with us what's on your mind with respect to that and any other matter. So, we take our first call? Yes. Good morning and welcome to Frank and Candid.
Hello, I'm holding for Mr. Blake.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Blake, am I on?
Yes, you are.
This is Sonny Boy.
Yes, I recognize.
Okay, were you in the defense force when Bradshaw was in office?
Was I what?
Were you in the defense force when Bradshaw was in office?
No, definitely no. When Bradshaw died, I was a youngster still in school.
Okay, so you probably don't remember me, right?
I absolutely don't.
Okay, so like I told you, Jam Down and Dumpling is my brother and sister.
Well, I know Jam Down well. He's my neighbor, as a matter of fact. You might know my older brother, Ethan.
Okay, well, my mother's house in 9 Fremont Street in Dorset, Upper Dorset.
Well, like I said, I know Jam Down well, but you I'm not familiar with at all.
No, I'm the oldest one. I'm 75 now.
Right, so you'll be up there with my older brothers.
Yeah, I was up in. I left home when I was 19. I never voted in no election.
Interesting.
And when I left home, Bradshaw was the premier.
Okay, so you left home a long time ago.
Yeah, I left back in the 70s, the early 70s, and I went to St. Thomas.
Have
I
you come
worked
back
for
since?
Hess Oil, and then I moved to the United States.
Have you ever come back home since?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Oh, okay, good.
My mom got a house in Freeman Village, up behind the Moravian Church.
That is where Jamdown lives.
Yeah, that's my mom's house. I come there many times
Very
when
good.
I came home from America.
Very good. I live in Wales.
You know who know me quite well? Stanley Franks. I grew up with Stanley Franks.
Right. I know Stanley very well as well.
But he's family to my oldest sister by a different father.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard about the Mockmahons.
Okay. So what's on your mind for
Stanley
this morning?
Frank's mother was a Mockmahon.
Okay, what's on your mind for this morning?
Uh,
What's on your mind for Frank and Candid?
okay, I'm calling because about the election.
Yes.
So I want to discuss with you, and bear with me. Don't think that I'm saying negative words, okay?
No, you can say what you wish. Just be decent. Yes, carry on.
Okay, when I grew up in New York and the Virgin Islands, Labour was in power, and the country was at to the brink many, many times with financial difficulties and all of that. This is things that I heard, you know. And when the Prime Minister come to America to address the UN, I used to go and visit with them, and they have parties after dances, and I will attend. And I interact with him. I never accuse him. I never worry about him doing nothing to me personally or my family, because most of all, he was my mother doctor. Dr. Douglas used to take care of my mother, medical care.
Okay.
So I thank him many times for that. But what I'm trying to say to you, the damage that the Labour Party did to St. Kitts, and this Dr. Timothy Harris brought us through rough waters and put us back on the world stage. I can't believe that we went back to the same old way. So I'm not going to cause no waves. I'm not going to be negative. I'm not going to act stupid and ignorant, because all the people in St. Kitts and Nevis are my brothers and sisters, and I hope they have a successful life like me. So I'm not going to say nothing negative, but I don't think that it was. I think there's a big mistake for them to go back to where they come from and didn't go forward. That's all I have to say, Mr. Blake.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, but again, I find it interesting that 14,000 out of over 14,000 out of a little over 20,000 persons would choose to go in a particular direction, and if you wish to describe that as a step backward, so be it. But as I said, the vast majority of persons disagree with that description, with that conclusion, and so the statistics speak for themselves. Okay, but we appreciate your comment nonetheless. Let's take another caller. Hello.
Mr. Blake, a pleasant good morning to you, sir.
To you as well.
Yeah. Permit me to talk about my observation over the years in connection with the statutory boards, right?
Yes.
I've noticed some persons are being put on boards, right? And some of them may spend the lifetime of the administration, and they will move from one board to another one, being the chairperson and them kind of thing like that, and so, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my observation also showed me that the preferred board for the members are the National Bank Board and the Ear and Support Board, because the directors are being paid on those, being directors on those boards handsomely, right?
Yes.
And I also recognize when there's a little ripple on the corporation, they will let off workers, but they won't think about cutting the director's pay to allow workers to stay on. You follow me, right, bro?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I hope going forward we train that mindset. And I also hope that persons who have been on boards previously don't go on other boards, honestly. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Okay. I think you would also like to say that the membership of boards should not comprise only individuals who support the party in power. And that is what's been happening for years. By and large, the membership of boards, certainly the leadership of the board, chairman or director, as the case may be, tend to be persons aligned with the party in power. That should not necessarily be the case. We all know that. But hey, now we're going to move from that desire to actual reality. I don't know when. Let's take another caller. Hello? Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. Yes, so how does one become a member of a board, one might ask? And it's a good question, right? Some of us might have been fortunate or unfortunate to have served on a board or two. But sometimes you ask yourself, one asks himself, is the board important? Is the board essential? Let's see what this caller thinks. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm calling in refer to the change that was made.
Yes.
If you are an employer and you have the majority of your employees complaining about you, you have to check yourself. Am I right or wrong?
To a large extent, not entirely, but by and large.
You have to check something out. However, the majority of the people of St. Kitts have spoken. So when a person would call and say, we gone back to this and gone back to that, we move on from what we had because it wasn't working for us. That's all I have to say. Let everyone else figure out what I just said.
Okay, that's an opposing view to what Sonny described, and that is quite okay. That's quite in order. All right, and that's what we welcome here on Frank and Candid. You speak your mind frankly, candidly, and of course, decently. Let's take another caller. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Blake. How are you?
I'm fine, actually.
Okay. This is Journey here. Mr. Blake, I want to just touch briefly on our election by congratulating Dr. Drew and his team to Parliament. And I just want to say also that when I look at the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister-elect, I was saddened by the fact when he pledged allegiance to the Queen, I noticed he was a bit apprehensive when it came to that.
Yeah, we've discussed that here already, but carry on.
Sorry?
We've discussed that here on Frank and Candid already, but carry on.
Well, I am giving my input on it, Mr. Blake. Do you mind?
Carry on. That's what I said.
Okay. Yes. Now, although we have our election was free from, bloodshed and all that, I just want to focus our people's attention to what is happening in Sierra Leone, who have just had election there. I think that there's lots of bloody unrest that is going on there, and I just want to say out a prayer for the people of Sierra Leone, that is on the continent of Africa. Mr. Blake, I also want to touch briefly on some of the global news that is happening, and I would like to say that when we speak about principalities in high places, without calling any names, I want to talk about where the present Pope, who was in Canada and met with the indigenous Americans, and he went there to say he's sorry for what happened to the indigenous people in Canada. This is recently this week. And we have to ask ourselves the question, why would an 80-something-year-old man would be traveling halfway around the world in a wheelchair just to say he's sorry? Mr. Blake, I have said before that we as a people, the majority, the melanated people, have to look deep beyond the happenings that is on the surface By that I mean, we have to know why at this time that, people are going around. There are some, I can name 3 public figures, the Pope, the Queen, and the President, who have been in the news lately, and most of what took place are happening with these people was cover-up. For instance, President Biden stretched his hand out to shake to someone that wasn't there, and CNN pulled that from the news media.
Yeah, take 60 seconds more, please.
Yeah. So, these things are happening, and we have to know what the objective of these visits. For instance, the Pope going to Canada at his age in a wheelchair, traveling halfway around the world. These things that are happening are very deep, and we have to pay attention to these things because this is a spiritual warfare that is going on, and we need to wake up. Now, just for the essence of time, I'll just give someone else the opportunity to call in.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we do have other callers lined up. Let's take another one.
Yes, good day, Mr. Blake.
Hey, nice hearing from you. I hope you have an answer for me now. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was about the independent,
yes.
Why independent candidates have a difficult time.
Yes.
Yeah, well, for one, realize that in our system, as it currently exists, that it takes quite a lot of not only financial resources, but human resources as well, backers and that sort of thing, in order to run for office. Okay, you just have to look at what went into all the candidates' campaign to realize that a one-man show is not an easy task.
So even if the one man is a millionaire, a fellow of means who has lots of financial assets, that's not going to make a difference?
It would make a difference. I mean, obviously money in politics make a difference.
Right. So
okay? But it does not mean, as this last campaign has shown, I mean, obviously one party outspent the others by far. Mm-hmm. And we saw the results we get. That party was still booted out of office, essentially. Okay, so that's not all. Okay? And I think what also happens is that part of it is momentum and perception. People don't generally feel that one person can make such a big difference in terms of governing the country. All right? And so they're more likely to gravitate to a party, somebody in a party who they think can make such a difference.
What does that speak? What does that tell us of our level of political literacy or political awareness or maturity?
I would not blame them for thinking that, because when you look at it, I think it was the BVI who used to essentially, before more recent times, they would elect individuals and then they come together and form a party or a government. In other words, that happens after an election, not before an election. Mm-hmm. Okay? But the problem with that is that it lends itself to too much horse trading, and one man can cause an upset in the government, those sorts of things, which does not make for stability. And also, I mean, one man who may be very charismatic or have lots of money behind him, for instance, but he may be a bad leader. And so you're saddled with this person, at least in a party. There are structures and other party members or other government ministers who can temper such a person. You know, in other words, you won't end up with extremes of persons running.
Let me ask a question, McMahon. Suppose let's paint a scenario here. The individual is one who is popular, likable. He has significant financial assets, and he shares his largesse with many others. So he's accepted in the community as a philanthropist, as it were. And he decides to run as independent. Uh-huh. Do you think his chances are increased, or he's going to perform just as poorly as has been the case, or have been the cases?
No, I mean, the popularity and the money, well, certainly the money, as I said before, does make a difference, but it does not guarantee success.
Because I haven't heard you mention up to now the question of the person's platform, his policy, his program, the package that he presents in terms of philosophy or an ideology. I haven't heard you mention that at all. So
well,
I'm just
the
wondering,
thing is, for somebody to emerge with such a philosophy or policy that, I mean, so overwhelms the others is quite likely improbable. Okay, those kinds of leaders now don't seem.
Yeah, we have 60 seconds more. 60 seconds. Yeah.
Everybody just follow because of their appeal, their personal appeal, and their policies. Okay, I don't. Do you see that happening? I don't. I certainly don't.
All right.
Right. One other thing, though.
Yeah, make it quick.
Yeah, I find the earlier comment by a caller very strange in saying that we're going backwards because we elected a new government. To provide an alternative, right?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
And so that is what they are for. And to say, from my estimation, we've always had good, steady progress throughout the lifetime of this country. Okay? Yes, we've had short spats, but generally speaking, we've developed pretty well, and we've done pretty well on the different administrations. Okay? And so
finish up.
And so I expect that to continue. It's not a case of going back, but making use of the alternative we have to go forward in a better way. That's my.
Thank you very much.
Attention.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
We're going to take one more call before we take a break. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm here. I haven't heard nobody talk about the overseas voters. Them to thank them.
So you
and
talk
they
about
play
it?
a great part. They play a great part in the election because the polls can show you that. And next thing I wanted to say that I think the elected voters, the registered voters, them outcome the census on the ground. So you could give me the answer about that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question, but we'll see how it goes. We have another caller before the break. Okay. Hello, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello, Mr. Blake.
Yes.
It's the son of one calling you back.
Yeah.
I know some caller is going to call and criticize what I said.
But that's expected. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, but I'm saying this. Old people think it's always said, history always repeats itself. So now the jury is out. So let's see what kind of verdict they come with 5 years from now.
Precisely. Very well.
So he's criticizing my comment and talking about old to new and all that. History always reproves itself.
Okay.
So we will see if I'm still alive 5 years from now, I'll be 80. And I will come back. If they do a good job, I will compliment them and compliment them for the good job they do. But let's see if history repeats itself.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mr. Blake.
Yeah, and it's not old people who say that history repeats itself. Okay? It is time and circumstances and facts and reality that tell us in uncertain terms that pretty often history does repeat itself. We take a break now, we'll come right back.
At ZIZ, we want to take a moment to salute our small business owners and encourage you to support them. Our small business owners are always hard at work providing quality goods and services to you. They also provide employment for many and can be counted on to give back to our communities. Today and every day, we salute our small business owners and we say thank you for the opportunity to provide advertising services to you. If you're a small business, call us at 465-2621 to join our family of small business advertisers. Call us 465-2621. You'll be glad you did.
This is Chris Gale, the Universe Boss. Get ready for something new. The 60s T10 cricket tournament taking place in St. Kitts this year from the 24th to the 28th of August. Huge power hits and all the CPL teams taking part in exciting new innovation to the game. Come and see me and all the stars playing at Warner Park. For fixtures, information, and to buy tickets, visit 60cricket.com. Experience cricket power game at the 60.
Thank you for sticking and staying with ZIZ and with Frank and Candid. Right. My friend McMahon spoke of the improbability of an individual as an independent candidate making a significant headway in our political sphere. But of course, a lot of us thought that a lot of what happened on Friday gone was wrapped up in a lot of improbability. A lot of us thought that a lot of what happened was really characterized by a lot of improbability. But the improbable became not just possible and probable, but reality. So in as much as it might be improbable, the fact that it is not impossible, and we have precedent in other sister Caribbean countries where independent candidates have done well, and in some cases have almost wreaked havoc on the ruling party in terms of their ability to represent and to raise certain issues and to hold the feet of the incumbents to the fire. I remember while I worked in the Bahamas for a number of years, there was an independent candidate for the area in which I was positioned, the district in which I was teaching, the school where I was at. And he did a hell of a job to the point where both parties, the main opposition and the leading party, the ruling party, actively sought his support in terms of his becoming a member of their party, because he did such a tremendous job in representing his constituency as an independent candidate. I remember that pretty well back in the late 80s, early 90s. And so it is possible. And of course, others of you would know of other independent candidates in other Caribbean countries who have not just sat idly or weakly or ineffectively in Parliament, but they have been not just vocal, they have been effective in getting things done, in demanding that attention be paid to their particular constituency, that their constituents be represented, that their constituents their needs be addressed, and so on. So I understand that there might be the thinking that as one person cannot do much to effectuate the kind of change that is desired, but certainly it is not impossible. And we can have such a strong candidate. I believe that McMahon himself would be a good individual if he were an independent candidate in the House. Let's take this caller. Hello. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good day, man.
Yes.
Yeah, good day. How are you, man? Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, it's always good to hear from you, Bert. Talk to me.
Yeah, okay, let me get direct, man, because the other day was, cutting out.
Definitely.
We had a bad reception last time. But, okay, let me get direct, right? The project with the prison project, right? If the new government halts that project, or I don't know if that project was actually started, but if that project is stopped, right? It was some talk that some 5,500 passports were distributed in connection with that project. I mean, I just wanted to ask a question. If that was correct, by any chance, what should happen to those passports? If those passports should be nullified?
No, the passports these were not passports that were issued. This was a number that was being allowed. The persons associated with the project were being allowed to sell that number of passports on the international market, but not that there were passports being issued or already issued to individuals. These were passports that were going to be sold to would-be buyers, and the monies would be used to finance the prison. The concern was that these passports would generate a lot of money, over $2 billion, very little of which would be used to actually construct the prison. Where would the rest of the funds go? Not in the coffers of the government, not in the hands and pockets of the people, but to build the financial largesse of others, and that is where the concern was. But not that the passports were given out already, so to speak.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, man. Different than that, the two areas that I want to see, change to, I want change, to occur with the term limitation of the Prime Minister, and also, I was happy to hear the new Prime Minister made contact with the premier. Historically, these two parties might seem like they might be at odds, but it's amazing to see that, they can now these might actually be the two parties that might make that change between the two islands. So for me, I'm looking forward to a stronger union between St. Kitts and Nevis. And that's my small contribution for now, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Okay. So, that's a question that has been asked, of course, and we expect answers shortly. What's the status of the prison project? What's the status of the solar farm, so to speak, and what's the status of the New Bassi High School? Those were critical issues on which the Labour Party campaigned. They were against the way these matters were being pursued. They were totally against the construction of the Bassi High School on the assigned lot. We are going to find out more as time progresses, and I imagine sooner than later what the actual position is. Let's take this caller. Hello?
Sorry about my voice, but I want to correct something. I've heard a caller, and he not only called to ZIZ, but a few other places, and said that if you're in the United States and the polling station closed, you cannot vote. That is wrong. As long as you're in the line, you're federally protected to cast your vote. But I know it's easy to speak, and a lot of us, even though we travel thousands of miles, physically, mentally, we still, wherever. But no, gossips and rumors are what affects us too badly. You could vote. As long as you're standing in line, when the voting time comes, you are allowed to vote. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. And that only sounds fair and reasonable to me. Only fair and reasonable. That if you get there before the cutoff time, you're allowed to vote. I think the same applies to even normal businesses and regular offices. Once you're there, you're given attention. But certainly don't be rushing in a minute past and say, hey, I'm only 60 seconds late. I was delayed by traffic. I had an incident or an accident. No, that can't work. But once you get there before, even if it's 1 second before, according to whose clock, I don't know, but certainly you're allowed to vote. And I think I did hear someone say that in other territories, you're not allowed to vote once the time has passed. So thank you for clearing that up. I think it's only sensible and fair. Right. So that there are certain issues, of course, as we said, which we expect the new government to explain to the public what actions have been taken or are going to be taken in short order with respect to these very important matters, which were among the leading issues of the campaign. And I would imagine that it would do us well to pay attention whenever the Prime Minister in particular has a press conference, has a discussion, or has a session for the public. Let's take this caller. Hello?
Yeah. Mr. Blake, permit me to say this quick. I don't like the idea that some company or individual are being given the exclusive right to sell St. Kitts passports if they're having a project. So basically, before the election, we were hearing about the prison and who had this exclusive right for that. And in the past, we know about other institutions being built and person have exclusive right for that. I don't think that should continue to happen. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. If I may say so myself, I'd like St. Kitts to adopt the policy of St. Vincent and stop selling passports. But man, I would love for St. Kitts and Nevis to cease and desist from selling our citizenship. It is something I do not support, but those in government, of course, they're supposed to have access to certain kinds of expertise and certain bodies of knowledge which should guide their decisions and their behavior. But as an individual, I would really prefer that St. Kitts and Nevis's passports not be sold neither like in any way. They should not be sold. I don't think that should happen. And I support Ralph Gonzalez's, Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez's position on this matter. All right, he has steadfastly refused to engage in that policy or practice of selling passports. All right, and I really would like to know, and I believe lots of people would like to know, how many of our passports have been sold since 1984? How many? I think some of us might end up with some kind of shock when we find out the number, because I imagine it's a very large number. We have never been told with any form of exactitude or precision, not even an approximation of how many of our passports have been sold. Is it 5,000? Is it 15,000? Is it 50,000? Is it 500,000? How many of our passports have been sold? I guess, we'll be able to work out easily the kinds of monies we would have earned from selling the passports if we get a number. And so one would begin to argue, where has the money gone? But we would like to know how many of our passports have been sold. Let's take this caller. Hello?
Yes, Mr. Blake. I was just trying to understand why you don't like the idea of selling passports. It's a national asset.
Yeah.
Just like any other that we have.
Listen.
And why can't we use it?
Are you available for to be on panel next week?
If what?
Are you available to be on panel here on the Frank and Candid sometime next week?
Sure.
Okay, good. So I'll call you. We'll talk, and we'll.
Okay.
That's one of maybe two matters we will thrash out right here.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Because I don't want to do a half-hearted, kind of half-boiled job. All right. It's a very important matter which I'd like to ventilate in some depth. Right. What my position is and why I hold that position with respect to that. And of course, we'll talk about it and then open the lines for the public to share. But that is one of two matters I'd like to raise with Iowa sometime next week, between Monday and Thursday, of course. Right. So I was saying, I think that it would be a good idea if we were to begin to pay close attention, much closer attention now, to what goes on in government. Because remember, it's only since the so-called breakup of the team unity government we've been hearing about a lot of shenanigans, a lot of things that were very discombobulating. We need to pay close attention now and listen to all of the voices, whether we like to hear them or not. Let's take this caller. Hello?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Blake.
Yes,
good
ma'am.
program. But looking at number 3, right? We want him in. And we want to know, we Prefield want to, the wards want to, the hospital want to, the infirmary want to, and the Prefield village want to. So we're looking at the good government. Thank you.
Definitely, and I'm sure Congress has his eyes on the ball. I'm sure he's going to be initiating some serious work. I heard him promise to address all these matters you raised, and of course we have to give him time. Okay, we must always be patient. Now we're not going to be, I don't know if we need to exercise the kind of faith that Job has and wait forever, but certainly we expect serious real action to start being manifest as early as this month, and certainly by the end of the year we want to see some tangibles being effected and implemented by the new government. Let's take another caller. Hello.
Mr. Blake, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks be to God.
Yeah, thanks be to God. This is your namesake.
Very well. Hey, okay.
Yeah.
Calling from the station.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Listen, for some clarifications, I know there's a change of government, and there are some things probably not too clear to me and to others. Now, there are some positions I know that are political positions.
Mm-hmm.
People have been appointed. Some have been diplomats, and whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Who are those who probably, being diplomats or what position they're in, may be recalled, and they are those who they wouldn't interfere with.
Right, they're career diplomats. Mm-hmm.
Permanent secretaries and so on. For example, I don't want to call names, but I would call this name because I listen to this program quite frequently. Ian Patches Library. somebody in those capacities.
Yeah, go ahead, make the point.
Yes. Huh?
Yeah, go ahead, make the point. Yeah.
Okay. What about permanent secretaries now and so on?
No, I'm not sure. What are you asking? Or what's the point you're getting at?
In terms of them losing their work, losing their jobs, or what the case may be.
You asking whether they will lose their jobs?
Yes, in some cases.
Well, certainly I can't answer that. But I would say that on a matter of principle, certain persons in certain positions should have already submitted their resignations. Instead of waiting to be recalled or waiting to be told, hey, we no longer need your services. I think as a matter of principle, morality, and rectitude, a number of persons should have already said, hey, I understand the situation, you know, there's a new government in place, there's a new sheriff in town, so to speak, and so I hereby tender my resignation, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to serve. I think that's what should happen. But in terms of who's going to lose his or her job, I can't say if anybody will lose his or her job simply because there's a new government, and I certainly don't know whom the government will choose to.
Well, I understand that. I understand that now. Yeah, clear. Good, thanks.
No problem. And hope to see you in St. Kitts sometime. Yes, let's take another caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Mr. Blake.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Blake, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
This is Sonny Boy. The person just called you and made a statement. Ask her what happened in Texas in the last election. Let's ask her what happened in Texas. She made a blank statement about 50 states. America got 50 states. And asked her when she called up what happened in Texas in the last election. And I listen to what she had to say.
Okay. Yeah, but I am one person, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, listening to Frank and Candid. I do not like the idea of comparing what happens in the United States with what happens in St. Kitts, or what happens in St. Kitts with what happens in the United States. I've always said, and I say to my students all the time, tell me what happens in Montserrat and Anguilla. Tell me what happens in St. Lucia and St. Vincent and Grenada. Tell me what happens in the Caribbean, please. Or if you want to go outside of the Caribbean, tell me what happens in territories which are similar to St. Kitts in terms of size and population. But don't compare St. Kitts with the United States. I really hate to hear it. I mean, we're all human beings, yes, no matter where we live, but the systems are so different. The structures are so diverse. The reality on the ground, sometimes the political state of being is so vastly different. I'm not sure if the comparisons sometimes are fair. Maybe they are, but we like to jump and say, in America. I think we need to stop that in many cases. Let's take another caller. Hello, caller.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
I'm calling you back. In America, every state run an election. They don't have a federal uniform election. That's going to be the John Lewis bill in Congress that Biden been trying to pass since last year. Where the federal government control all the elections. Right now in America, every state pass their own rules on election. So that caller that make that statement, she's wrong.
Okay.
Elections are run by the 50 states, not by the federal government. John Lewis bill would correct that.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think we need to know. I don't think those issues are relevant to us here in St. Kitts. Between me and you, I really don't think that is critical to what's happening here in St. Kitts. What happens in the United States and in Texas or Connecticut or Massachusetts, really, to me, it's material. So let's not pursue that matter anymore. Thank you. Let's take another caller. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rev.
Good day, Mr. Blake and my brother in God. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm enjoying the blessings.
Well, praise God.
You bet.
I want to thank God for his loving and his kind and tender mercies towards the people of the Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis. And I want to emphasize and re-emphasize to that of thanking God again for having us to come through a peaceful election and, of course, smooth transfer of power. I want to this morning send out a call to leaders of the local churches, pastors, bishops, apostles, priests, you name it, so that we can have a more voice, if I may put it this way, in our federation. I believe that we are the mouthpiece and children of God on a whole, the true mouthpiece of God. We thank God for allowing persons to form or become a part of a government to manage our affairs. But I believe we, the children of God, the leaders of the church, are the true advisors representing God to the government or any government. And I think sometimes we find ourselves too much settled in a building and not going out there and having the impact that we ought to have as spiritual leaders. Let me just quickly move on. I just want us, as the people of the Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis, not to underestimate our intelligence. And I'm specifically referring to that of persons going to vote. Yes, I think sometimes we take us and ourselves too much for granted. Now, we have had the Bradshaw, the South Wales, the Limor, and so on in office for a very long time. The people in God's own time saw it fit to vote them out. You had the Simmons administration lasting for 15 years, thereabout. The people saw it fit to take them out. You had the Denzel Douglas regime for some 20 years. The people saw it fit to take them out. You have the PLP, the people saw it fit to take them out. So it's always the people, and I can assure you that those people who voted on every occasion to remove the sitting government at that time were persons who voted from the People's Action Movement and also the Labour, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. And of course, of recent times, also for this election, people from PLP. Brother Lake, we need people more like you to be around to educate the people of St. Christopher and Nevis. You're a wide-spread, knowledgeable person, and I heard you say that next week is going to be your last. Maybe when I see you in person, I can ask you the reason why, but may God bless the people of the Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that, Rev. Pastor Dupont. Just to advise, though, I think I made it clear when I started here a couple of weeks ago that my good friend and brother Bradley, who is an employee of ZIZ, who was taking over this program, and who in my mind does a good job, had asked me to fit in for him while he's on vacation. And since I happen to be free, quote unquote, at the same time, I obliged him. And so he returns to office, he returns to work at the end of next week. And so when he gets back to work, my job here ends, as it were. But I do enjoy sitting and discussing with folks. Most of the people have been pretty self-respecting, pretty decent, except for one or two cases. And so I like the idea. I've been a teacher all my life. I like the idea of sharing, of imparting, of discussing, and of course in the process I learn a lot, quite a bit myself. Right. So, and of course it's nice working with those who sit at the controls in the studio. You know, sometimes it's GQ, sometimes it's Lady Jazzy D, and can't remember my other partner's name there, but it's interesting working with them sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, St. Kitts is now on a new path. We have a new government led by a new individual, and he's supported by and large by a group of new persons, most of them serving as ministers of government for the first time. We have to understand that they might make mistakes. And by the way, I would love for the time to come when a government minister gets on radio and television and openly admits to having made a mistake. It's as though that's a group of people who cannot err, who are infallible. And not in the same way that the Pope is infallible, but in a very different way. I would love for that occasion to arise and to arrive when a minister says, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens and residents, I blundered. I erred. Please forgive me, because to err is human and to forgive divine. So, in this new government, we hope to see a new model. We hope to see a new pattern. We hope to see a new paradigm. We hope to see a new example. We hope to see a new direction, which is what we've been asking for eons. We have already seen some tentative steps in that direction, and we commend Dr. Drew. We believe he's genuine and honest, and he's going to try to lead us in that new direction. And our job as citizens is to support him, wish him well, pray for his success, and when the time comes, in whatever small or great way, we as individuals, we do our best. That, I think, is what we ought to do. That, I think, is the direction in which we ought to go. Because leaders, if they do well, the country benefits, the people benefit. If they do poorly, the country suffers, the people suffer. Thank you very much for being a part of Frank and Candid this week. It was my pleasure. I look forward to doing it again next week. You know we don't have any sessions on Fridays. And so between now and the next time we meet, remember, be good.